This is one of my best ideas for artists who want to buck the system and stop having to chase companies to work with them and instead start your own company.
It's whiteboard night.
So, what you need first is 3 to 4 artists or bands who are all friends, and you're going to get together and you're going to incorporate a company at the provincial level. You're going to have 100 common shares and you're going to split them equally between all of the individuals involved. So let's say, for example, there's 4 bands, let's say 5 people per band, that's 20 people total. They would have 5 common shares each. Great, easy math. So you're going to pick people from amongst your group to serve in particular specific roles within the company. Normally what you're chasing if you're an artist and you don't have a team yet are certain specific roles. I'm going to talk about those. If you want to have different roles within your company, that's great, no problem. So the first thing I would think about is who is our artist manager. Ideally, this is the person who is the most responsible, detail-oriented, and ideally, they are personable as well. I think 90% of the job of being an artist manager is just being able to get along with other people. So whoever you're appointing as the artist manager within your new corporate structure, you want them to be personable, charismatic. The next person is your label rep. So again, you want this person to be detail-oriented. You want them to be good at spreadsheets. And ideally marketing as well. They've got some level of marketing and promo experience. This person is going to be responsible for all of the releases that are going to come out of your new corporate entity. In case I didn't make it clear, this thing is a full service music business. You are going to handle all of the roles and responsibilities that you need to run and operate your own artist career. This is a DIY, fuck the industry approach to building your own company, owning all your own shit, being your own team. So, one person from amongst the group is your artist manager. One is your label rep. One is your publishing lead. Again, spreadsheets are super important here, so someone who's good in the sheets, Excel, Google Sheets. Excel doesn't have 2 L's. Anyway, this is on the fly. I'm freestyling. One person is going to be responsible for all of the royalty registration and collection, submitting all of the live performance reports, contracts to SOCAN, all that sort of stuff, sync pitching, everything. Okay, so these are the big 3. You might have someone, depending on how many personnel you've got, from the 3 to 4 artists you bring together here. You might also have somebody who acts as the publicist. You might also have someone who's responsible full-time for social media, etc. There are lots of roles you can break down into. These are the big 3. You also need someone who's going to be the full-time admin for your company. They're going to do a lot. You want this person to be good at the grants. Ideally, they've got some experience in bookkeeping, submitting for awards, festivals, etc. And then, I forgot up here, but this is sort of a part of these, you want someone who's going to be the booking agent to represent all of the artists, all of the bands. Booking agent needs to be good at comms, research, and again, needs to be personable because this is someone who's going to be engaging with, industry folks, the public, a lot more than the other roles necessarily. So I'll just put personable down here as well. I've run out of whiteboard room. Let me erase this. I'll get right back to you. Okay, so we've established that you are incorporating a company provincially with all of the bands that are a part of this thing. You're going to figure out your roles next. How do you work the money? So all revenues are flowing into a company account. In your accounting software, you're going to tag them. In QuickBooks, you might use classes so that it's clear which revenue, you cannot tell that that is revenue, which revenues belong to which acts, so that at the end of the year, you can do some math, figure out the net profit that each artist generated, each artist or group. Same thing with all expenses. They're going to be paid out of a company account. You're going to do the same thing here. You're going to tag them. If you use QuickBooks, another software, make sure that you're using something so that you can easily identify which revenues and which expenses belong to which artists. And then throughout the year or at the end of the year, whatever makes the most sense for your accounting and your bookkeeping process, you're going to assign net profit on a per artist basis so that everyone actually earns what they helped bring into the company. Once you get to this point, this will be issued either as dividends, or salary, or a combination of both, depending on how much net revenue is left in the company. If you're incorporated provincially, there can be benefits in just paying out dividends up to a certain amount. That amount changes by province. Once you get past that threshold, there's an optimal combination of salary and dividends per person. Talk to your accountant or your lawyer about that, probably your accountant. Part of the idea behind this is bucking the system, is building your own team. The other piece is that I think taking this approach that within 2 years, which is a relatively short period if you're hoping for this to be a long-term or a lifelong career for yourself, you'll be able to access all federal and provincial funding programs on your own. So think at the federal level, I think within 2 years you could be into the mid or the high tier envelope programs with Factor. You could probably access the support organizations funding with Canada Council when that opens up. At the provincial level, I'll think about, or I'll use Nova Scotia as an example. You can probably access creative industries funds here. Maybe not, maybe that's wrong. Anyway, my point is, within 2 years, with your combined power of all of the artists that are coming together under this one company, I think you're much more likely to reach the revenue threshold necessary to get into these larger envelope, core, multi-year style grant programs. And then you've got your own leverage. You can make your own decisions about how you're assigning, spending, investing grant funding, rather than waiting for a company to pick you and to assign how much investment or funding they want to your project. This is all about doing it yourself. This is about being self-directed, master of your own domain, all that sort of shit. I think these are all the big points I want to make. Obviously, when you're incorporating, you're going to need a shareholders agreement. The shareholders agreement in this case should very clearly identify who owns what if one or more artists should leave the company. This would be a pretty big experiment, I would think, if 3 or 4 artists were to come together, try and build a company like this. So you want to be really clear, like if I'm artist A entering into this and I decide I want to leave, I want to be able to exit with all of my intellectual property, my masters, my publishing, all that sort of stuff. That's another good point. Man, we're getting into multi-level here. So I think the best thing to do for this company experiment would be to assign all your masters and publishing to the company. That's going to create a scenario where in the future, if you wanted to exit, you've actually got a corporate entity that can be sold and that has value because of the intellectual property that it owns. But the shareholders agreement, back to this, we'll touch on what happens if one of the artists in the company decides to leave. Again, you need legal advice on this. I'm not a lawyer, but you can set up your shareholders agreement in such a way that you could leave and still retain all the ownership of your IP, so there's less risk to the folks getting involved in this kind of a scenario. This is about the compounding power of a bunch of artists getting together. I know for a fact that there are lots of groups out there where there are individuals in the group that have all kinds of skill sets. It's about leveraging the skill sets of the individuals across various groups to their best use and to the benefit of a larger cooperative kind of group. So if you're interested in this, feel free to reach out, follow me, message me, whatever. I would love to see somebody try this. I would be personally very open to supporting this and being a partner in this kind of entity. So if it interests you, feel free to reach out.
It's whiteboard.